Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is No Game, No Life, Episode 3, Expert. The episode in a nutshell is just a brief summary of exactly what happens within this episode. So this episode ends where the last one left off, with Sora, Shiro, and Stephanie walking through the hallway before entering into the coronation room or the throne room where Kurumi is about to be crowned. And the official asks if anybody objects, and naturally Sora does object. And he also manages to reveal that she had an elf companion, Fiel, in the room as well, and had been using her to cheat, though he can't prove it. The fact that the elf is in the room kind of reveals it for itself. And Kurumi accepts his challenge, trying to save face, and decides that they're going to play a new game, not poker, which is exactly what Sora was aiming for, but she needs time to set it up. Therefore, they separate for a while. Then, once the game is set up, Kurumi comes back to gather them after Sora explains to Stephanie that now, because she's working with the elves, Kurumi is going to assume that Sora is working for another race that can use magic, as typically humans can't perceive magic, which is going to work in their favor, as it'll mean that the game is not fundamentally impossible to win, giving them a chance. And of course, if there's any chance, Kuhaku or Blink, as him and Shiro call themselves as a pair, will not lose. They then ride in a carriage with Kurumi, who then decides to tell them her entire plan, how she's working with Fiel and the elves in order to give humanity the right to live under the elven rule, and that she will use the elves or work with the elves in order to gain back the minimum possible amount of territory, and then after that, swear off all games so that humanity is able to survive, as right now they're obviously in a very poor situation. Naturally, Sora and Shiro decline this because they believe that she is selling humanity short and that living under another race is no way to live, and they believe in themselves and humanity and their ability to rise above any sort of adversity. They arrive at the game, find out that they're playing chess, but an intelligent chess that allows the pieces to move with a will of their own. And it starts with Shiro playing, and she plays it as typical chess. However, it quickly becomes clear that it's not normal chess when Kurumi, instead of ordering her pieces to specific squares, just tells them to go forward. And then we hit a... But Shiro still manages to have a leg up until she realizes that the will of the pieces also includes them not sacrificing themselves. So she can't sacrifice any pieces as you normally would in chess to achieve a greater goal. And she eventually starts to cry, saying that she's lost because the pieces are no longer listening to her. And that is when Sora steps up to take over, and he gives a speech to rally the troops and starts treating the chess pieces as an army in a strategy game as opposed to pieces in chess. And they do start to fight back. However, Kurumi has more than one piece up her sleeve, and the other piece she has up her sleeve is that her pieces are able to, with the help of elven magic, brainwash the other side's pieces. So she starts to brainwash the pieces, but just before they lose, Sora convinces her queen to switch sides, essentially turn traitor, and the queen becomes one of his pieces. Kurumi, of course, is upset by this and orders one of the knights to kill the traitor queen, but the knight isn't able to do it, and he ends up turning into a white piece as well. And that is basically when, in a great cliffhanger, Sora basically tells everyone that there's more than one way to win, and we then cut off there mid-game. Now that we remember what happened within the episode, it's now time to rank the episode. On this channel, we rank on two lists, a mostly objective ranking list, which uses set values, and then the personal ranking list, which is just based on opinion and preference. As always, we start with our mostly objective rank values, and I highlighted the ones I felt applied to this particular episode. So the first value is, of course, the supporting character introduction, which is the introduction of Fiel Nervalen, which is the elf accomplice of Kuramizel, who helped her to cheat in poker, and then also helps to more subtly cheat in the chess game, and also watches the chess game through a lake, seemingly in the elf homeland. And that is worth 2 points. We then have an additional 2 points for the supporting character development, which is the fact that Kremizel is working with Fiel Nervalen to basically let humanity live under the elves, which will afford them the right to keep living. And this, of course, is the plan that they concocted together in order to try to save humanity, which obviously Sora does not like because he sees more value in humanity than that. We then have the final positive, which is 4 points for our main character development. And this was just the fact that Sora and Shiro have a bucket list of phrases that they want to be able to say within their lifetime. And they're able to say one to Kermie when she gives her plan and asks them to forfeit the challenge or back out of the challenge. They then get to say one of their lines, and oh, I can't remember now. I think it was something along the lines of there's nothing that blank likes to do more than say no to someone who thinks that they have the upper hand. Not exactly that, but that was the vibe of the phrase. And it was worth 4 points, which brings us to 8 points. However, there was the negative, of course, which was the cheating. Now, the rules, the commandments, do allow for cheating if you don't get caught at it. However, in this episode, Kermie's blatantly cheating, and I don't really know why the rule isn't applying. I guess because it is magic, and humanity can't feel magic, they can't definitively prove it, even though it's fairly obvious with the whole brainwashing of the other pieces and the whole fact that it moves on its own, etc., etc. But obviously, because of the magic, they can't have the commandments come into play because they can't prove it or say the exact way that it works. But we as the audience and both sides know that there is cheating happening, and cheating, of course, is always going to be a negative behavior, which is why it's a -2 points, which leaves this episode ranked at a 6 out of 10 objectively. Which means that our series ranking so far on the mostly objective ranking is so far in episode order, with beginner in first place, challenger second, and expert in third. Now for my personal ranking, I gave it a 7. And the reason that I gave it a 7 is that I like pretty much everything about the episode, except Sora's speeches are a bit on the more perverted side. And that is kind of normal for anime, so you have to have a high tolerance for it if you're going to be watching anime. They really, really enjoy being mild perverts. I don't know why. And personally, I've never found an anime that was worse off for not having that in it. But personally, not really perverted. So when I see like a lot of these perverted lines or these perverted speeches, I'm kind of like, I have tolerance for it because I understand that that's the culture of anime and that it is incredibly popular and common within anime. So you kind of have to take your medicine with your sugar. Understandable. So that's why I didn't mark it down too much, but he does go a little bit like over the top with these speeches and specifically makes those speeches somewhat preferred, but overall the episode was really good. You know, there was like the chess game itself was very interesting, how it kept kind of changing and shifting as the episode went on. And that's why I decided to give it a 7, because while it's not perfect, it was very good. There wasn't too much comedy in this episode, which is also works for this particular episode with the way that the game was being played and the meaning behind the game and the stakes that are behind the game. I do like that they did cut the comedy a bit, though I also do enjoy comedy, so I did miss it. Though the whole having a bucket list of phrases that they always wanted to say, I'll admit I have a quotes list from quotes that I've heard in TV shows and movies that I want to say someday. So I understand having a bucket list of phrases, and obviously it's great that they got to use one, but that was kind of like the one time that there was comedy in the episode. First part of it was a little bit more explainy again, where they're basically explaining to Stephanie the motivations and their theories. Basically, at this point, Stephanie's kind of a sounding board, and that makes her come across a little bit, putting it nicely, airheaded, which isn't great for the character, but at the same time, she's kind of been established as that from the start, and it doesn't really change throughout the show either. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I had to say about the episode that I didn't cover in the summary objective or this list, and I don't think I'm missing anything. So I'm going to go with our series ranking so far in the personal side. And in first place, we have beginner. Second place was expert, and then third is challenger. So with that, we've now rewatched and ranked No Game No Life episode 3, expert. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.